right, welcome friends to another episode of Famous Blast Words hosted by Pyrotecnico. Thank you all for joining us today for episode number 7. This is our last show before the July 4th holiday, so today's episode will focus on fireworks and innovation. Given that the 4th is only a few days away, again, today's episode will be titled Let's Talk Fireworks, and we'll be focusing on two of our core principles, those being innovation and safety. Chris Libador, our VP of Sales, aka Lib, will be hosting the innovation portion of today's show, and Paul Gaffney, our Director of Safety, will be leading the safety segment of the show. But first, we're going to look at two very different organizations, one a city and another a minor league baseball team in different parts of the country, and how they've gotten very creative during these uncertain times to provide both fun and responsible live entertainment options for their communities, again, even in these uncertain times. Next, after that, we'll conclude the show with a segment on consumer firework safety, hosted again by our very own Paul, along with Greg Smith, who is the Safety and Program Manager for the American Pyrotechnics Association. As always, we want this to be an interactive conversation, so please ask any questions you might have in the comment section below, and we'll get to as many as possible. And now, without any further delay, I'd like to introduce today's guests. So first, from the city of West Palm Beach, Florida, let's welcome Mary Pinnock, the Community Events Manager for the city of West Palm Beach. Welcome, Mary. Thank you for being here today with us.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Great. And next, let's welcome Michael Ventura, the Manager of Media Relations for the Lehigh Valley Ironpigs. Welcome, Michael. Thank you also for being here with us today.
Pleasure being here with everybody. Glad to be a part of it.
Great. Before we take any questions from our viewers, Lib, I'll let you take it away and provide some background on how things have played out so far this season with both West Palm Beach and the Ironpigs. So take it away, Lib.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. Excited to be here. Again, Mary, Michael, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being great partners and participating. We've had a lot of fun doing these series recently, so it was exciting to get involved in this one with you guys. So Mary, I'm going to start with you and ask. So why don't you give our viewers a little taste of what traditional fireworks in West Palm Beach have been like in the years outside of COVID-19?
Yeah, so for the last 31 years, believe it or not, we've had an event called 4th on Flagler Drive being our main waterfront street downtown. And wonderful show put on by you guys over the Intercoastal Waterway. There's a great picture right there. You can see West Palm Beach in the backdrop. And we get about 80 to 100,000 people down there for a 5-hour event. So we're packed pretty tight in less than a mile. So this year also was to be the finale of the city's 125th anniversary, which we've been celebrating throughout the year. So we had a lot of special things planned. We are actually going to augment the fireworks and do some special stuff. We were really, really excited about it. We actually had an increase in our budget. And then, of course, we know what happened in March. Basically, we had a big pause on everything we're doing because obviously we need to be safe and we need to do things that are safe for our community. So all of our events, because we produce, about 230 events a year our office produces. So this is our biggest one-day event, but everything came to a halt. And we were kind of like, what are we going to do about 4th of July? And decided we were going to do something because all of us, there's so much stress and so much different about this year that we really felt like 4th of July should be, continue to be a day we celebrate our independence. So we called Chris and said, give us a little patience here, but we're working out something.
Yeah. No, and I think that's it's a great point. It kind of goes into what my next question was going to be. I can speak for our organization and even many others in the industry. We've seen significant impacts to the display business with a lot of communities just, running into what you ran into with, hey, there's no way we can do this on Flagler. So we'll figure it out. We'll do something later in the year, which is great, but you're still missing out on that really important day. And so what, I'm going to call you probably that 15 or 20%, maybe on the high end, 25% of those that were like, this is non-negotiable. We're having a 4th of July. So, what was it? I think you touched on a little bit in talking about you felt like people needed something, but, what made it so non-negotiable for you and the rest of your folks in West Palm?
Well, we always like to take on, the biggest challenge we can here in West Palm Beach. We like to do things differently. We don't like to shy away. But we knew, again, we had to do something safely. So when all that happened back in March with our events, we immediately flipped to a lot of DIY things online, and like a lot of people did. But we were all of a sudden, the guy in the office that knew how to run the camera became the cameraman. And the people in the office learned how to do crafts. And we're making stuff up as we went along, but it was getting some impact. So we were already in that mode. So we decided to create a DIY 4th. And so on our website is everything you need to know about how to put on a party at your own backyard or your own, we call it POP, party on your porch. So what we've told everybody to do is stay home, follow our guide on how to have a good time, although I'm sure people know how to do it anyhow. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, you go outside and look up, and 2 undisclosed locations in West Palm Beach, there will be fireworks. So we're hoping most of our residents get a fabulous view of your fabulous shows.
Yeah. No, and I know we spent a lot of time talking about that, and we were able to use some of the, I'm grateful for the technology we have in Google Earth and other, software like that we can utilize to be able to, I was able to give you guys some images of what, hey, here would be a viewing radius. And we were able to use different street views of saying, here's what obstructions would look like. We did we probably at one point had, 8 or 10 sites over a course of a lot of conversations, and every reason this one couldn't work, but this one was ideal, and trying to make sure we got all parts of the community involved.
We certainly never had that discussion before, because it was always a barge in the intercoastal. Maybe it was a few feet to the north or the south, but we never, and it was, it's been a learning experience for all of us. I've been here for 30 of the 31 events. So I've done the same thing on 4th of July pretty much over 30 years. So this time, we got to explore some new options. And I will tell you, Chris, that I hope we're back over the intercoastal next year, because that is, home. But it's been kind of thrilling to experience the landside and go through that process with you in terms of getting the bird's eye view of where you think would be good locations. Very educational.
Yeah, well, I always enjoy, I know the organization, we pride ourselves on being tested and overcoming challenges. And this is certainly, we've been facing a lot of challenges, but it's been fun working with you through the process. So I know we've talked a lot. I've been working very directly with you on the plans for the show, but just from an overall planning the event, talk a little bit, how does this compare to planning 4th on Flagler to doing this? I'm sure it's complete other end of the spectrum for you.
It's so different. Usually this week, we're already starting to load in the event. Again, there's 80,000 people. It's a huge setup. It's, Chris, what is it, 146 degrees here? I mean, it's really hot right now in South Florida. Again, this is my 31st one would have been 31st one for me. So I'm not a young pup anymore. And today, my coworker Angela came in and she handed me, here's the sheet for 4th of July. It was like one sheet for this event. Usually there's a binder, at least one, sometimes 2. So really different, but I think this year may be more impactful than just about any year that we've had, because you're going to remember this year regardless of what you do. You're going to remember this 4th of July, because that's what we do. We make memories. So if we can turn, I'm just going to say the lemon into lemonade, or the whatever, if we can create a spark this year, people are going to remember it. The impact that the events could make this year, especially after when we can go back into creating events. It's a tough time for our industry, but when we come back and how we come back, people will appreciate it more than I think ever before.
Yeah, no, it's well said. And, as we talk about, making those memories, and I think about, I've been in the industry going on a couple decades, and and working. This one's obviously near and dear to me because I've been, I had the privilege of being your lead technician and lead operator for a number of years and had a lot of fun doing it. But I just know, like, even myself, every year the anticipation builds when we get 10 minutes out, 50, 5 minutes out. And I know the anticipation as a spectator because I was there at one point as a child. And I think what's unique about this year is we not only have, even when the show's happening on that barge on the Intercoastal in a normal year, we, you have that anticipation. Is it going to start on time? Is it, what time, people, the crowd's kind of waiting for it. Now there's a suspense of waiting for the show, but they also don't know where it's coming from. They just know it's in their community. So I think there is a very, it's very cool and innovative in that we made, lemonade out of lemons in this case. And I'm excited to see the outcome. So what type of feedback, if any, are you receiving from the community? Because I know there was about 3 weeks ago, there's the big announcement when it wasn't announced where, it was just announced that there will be fireworks in West Palm, but nobody knows where.
Everybody loves a good mystery, right? They've been pretty respectful of the reason why we're not disclosing the locations. I think it'll be interesting in the next couple of days. And certainly that night, we really have embargoed the locations purely for safety reasons. But I think people are excited just that somebody in this community stepped up. At least one entity in the community stepped up to provide a show. They'll probably be the person outside of West Palm Beach that maybe didn't see them up in the sky from there and they might complain. But overall, this is an effort that I think will be well regarded. And like I said before, hopefully some fabulous memories of, remember that year we had to go in our backyard and we only had our family instead of, whoever else, the hundreds of people you might celebrate with. Yeah. So, we're hoping it's a good hometown show. That's what we want.
Yeah, I certainly can't wait to get to that point because I'll be honest, all the years that I've shot the show, I'm here in West Palm now. I flew in today, actually, very unfamiliar to be at an airport after 4 months of no airports. I had to get all used to that again. But I'm so used to just, talking to people on the plane. Oh, what are you traveling for? And there's far less conversation these days because people don't talk with masks on, it seems like, because you can't read facial expressions. But I'm so used to talking to the community about, hey, make sure you come out to the show. And I have to show some restraint there. So I can't wait to get to Saturday just so that I don't, spill the secret of where the locations are. So, kind of as we tie off our conversation before we talk a little bit with Michael, tell me, Mary, I know over 200 events that you do. You guys have certainly innovated in other ways, even outside of the fireworks. Why don't you tell a little bit about some other ways that West Palm has innovated with your events?
Well, certainly the fireworks and July 4th and 4th on Flagler is our summer spectacular. But in December, we have the holidays like nobody else. Instead of, we used to drag down a 35-foot, we cut down a 35-foot, we wouldn't, but somebody would cut it down in North Carolina, the fir tree, and we'd bring this thing half dead down and it would stand up. By the end of December, it was half dead and it was horrible. And it was 9 years ago, we sat down and said, what would make West Palm Beach, what should we be on the holidays? We shouldn't be this dead tree from North Carolina. And we decided we should be tropical because we have an absolutely amazing tropical waterfront. So hence that year, we had a sand sculptor that we worked with, a nationally known sand sculpting company from the Sarasota side. And he put up, he'd done some large sand sculptures. And I said, Mark, can you build a 35-foot tall holiday tree out of sand? And he said, well, sure. And so the next year, Sandy was born. And what we have now is the world's only holiday tree, 35-foot tall, 700 tons of sand. And wow. She sits on our waterfront from the 1st of December through New Year's Eve. And she stars in music and light shows nightly. And it's a spectacular. She's gotten worldwide recognition. It's been in several publications from, it was in People magazine last year for a very interesting reason. But she brings hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, I think Brian has a video queued up, so I think we'll get a sneak peek of Sandy here. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's Sandy. She has her own domain of Sandyland. She's 700 tons of fun. And she says, real trees have curves, and the more of me, the merrier will be. So
That's awesome. So before we move over, you have to, I've heard this story before, but you have to tell the brief story of how we could say Sandy reached some international fame.
Yeah. Well, she's had a few publications in her 9 years, but last year, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, my kids knew this, I didn't. I guess it's the biggest bar night of the year. And we do sit at the end of a very busy street with lots of bars and restaurants. And our security guards that night decided to take a very long break. And we had very good security cameras on the tree. And at 3 a.m., about 5 or 6 young gentlemen climbed over the fence and decided to climb up Sandy, all caught on video. And the police department the next day put out the APB with the footage, and lo and behold, it hit the wire, and People magazine did a whole story on the tree and the culprits and the Grinch that stole the Sandy Christmas. And it was the damage truly wasn't that bad. The PR results were miraculous.
Yeah. Well, let's just make sure we don't tell the fire department that we hired the same security firm for the fireworks show. We won't let them know that.
Yeah, we won't let them know that.
No, sure. I'm just kidding. We don't know that. So, well, Mary, grateful for your partnership and the relationship we've built over the years working together, and looking forward to, wowing the residents here and these 2 undisclosed locations. And I can't wait to, chat and hear the feedback afterwards. So again, thanks for hanging on. Gonna chat with Michael here about the Ironpigs, and then obviously we'll leave some time at the end for some questions, Mary, in case anybody has any for you. So thank you again.
Thanks, Chris. Always a blast.
Michael, thanks again, buddy, for being here. Again, grateful for the partnership and your loyalty. So, can you tell our audience a little bit about what the Ironpigs involvement in fireworks on a traditional non-COVID year, when baseball's roaring? How do you guys approach fireworks from a standpoint of number of shows, and how do you determine that?
First off, I wish I was down with you guys in West Palm Beach right now. My brother and my sister-in-law and my niece and nephew live in Jupiter. So I've been to West Palm. It's gorgeous. For those of you who have never been, shame on you. Make sure you get down to West Palm Beach. It is a great, great area. It's been very weird with no baseball. It's been a weird year with no sports, period. So obviously when folks usually go watch a Major League Baseball game, most of the time they're there to see the talent on the field. Wins, losses, things of that nature are more heavily weighted. But in the world of minor league baseball, the game is kind of the background. So for us, it is our job to provide entertainment avenues for fans as they come in through the gates. And the biggest seller is always a fireworks show. It is, to me, there are 2 fail-safe options in minor league baseball. One are giveaways, and the other are fireworks. You have a fireworks show, you'll do really well every time with fans coming into the gate. So for us, what we tend to do is on a normal game night, if it were a regular season, we would be able to have just a basic fireworks show that would take after the conclusion of the final out of the game. We have usually some other promotional type stuff that we do. But then we have a fireworks show that we've been able to that fans will get a chance to sit in their seats and watch and get a chance to enjoy. That would be as if it were a normal season. So, but as you're going to see with some of the stuff that we're going to show you here in just a few minutes, it's been anything but that. So we've really had to get creative, Chris, in being able to come up with some different things throughout this COVID process.
Yeah, it's been challenging for everybody. The reach of how everyone's been impacted has been just hard to imagine. So talk a little bit about, you touched on how different you guys operate, even, there's connection and ties to MLB, the Major League Baseball, but, how you operate, how you approach your events and your fan base. So talk a little bit about how does the MLB decisions affect you guys? And then how much do you kind of operate independently to where, you kind of have to break away and pave your own way whenever there isn't baseball. Talk a little bit about the relationship with MLB and minor league.
So for those of you who are unaware how minor league baseball work is, minor league baseball, believe it or not, is a separate entity from Major League Baseball. They have a collective bargaining agreement that allows Major League Baseball and minor league baseball to have a relationship with one another. So with that being said, is because of that relationship, we are allowed to partner with a parent club and have essentially their minor leaguers play at our ballpark. So since 2008, when the Lehigh Valley Ironpigs first came into existence, they've been an awesome parent club, a great partner, or been the Philadelphia Phillies. So they've been our parent club now for 13 years and, continuing to be our partner for, from now, hopefully to the end of time. And pretty much what happens is when the Phillies, they have their guys that don't make it to the major leaguers, but we're at the AAA level, the highest level of minor league baseball. They put them at our ballpark, they play. That's pretty much the biggest thing when it comes to a relationship with the parent club, is being able to house their players, take care of their players, make sure their players are kept well, going over travel assignments, things of that nature. That's how we work with the parent clubs. But where we become separate is everything essentially from a business standpoint. So in how we sell tickets and how we promote events and how we are able to have fan interactive type events, even when there's not a game day. So we're pretty separate most of the time, but there is that big partnership, obviously, when there is a baseball season. So, but we are a seasonal entity with no baseball right now. It has been challenging, not only for us, but for every other minor league team in the nation. So we rely heavily on baseball being played, but getting into some stuff that we're going to, like I said, minutes ago, we're going to show is this is how we've been able to get innovative and how we've been able to keep busy here in 2020.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that explanation. I think it's probably interesting for a lot of folks to know, not knowing the dynamics between the two entities and how, one supports the other, but they kind of operate independently. So thanks for that. So, today's focus was on innovation and fireworks. So talk a little bit about, how did you guys go about this concept of, for those who don't already know what we're talking about, this drive-in concept is really what happened. And I can preface it by saying that I was talking to Kurt and the gang earlier in the year with Kenny. It was pretty doom and gloom. We were all beat up. We're all emotionally sapped, and just the psyche is low, and it's like, what are we gonna do? No baseball, and how all these fireworks shows, these hundreds of shows we do for baseball teams, and it wasn't looking great. And then all of a sudden, we get this call from you guys about, hey, let's do. We want to try this drive-in. So talk a little bit about that process, how you guys came up with the idea, and how you navigated figuring out how to do it safely and effectively.
Well, for us here in the state of Pennsylvania, for those of you watching who are unaware where the Lehigh Valley Ironpigs are located, we are located in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So I always like to say the Lehigh Valley is the midway point between Philadelphia and New York City. So to me, if you're in the Lehigh Valley, you pretty much can get to Philadelphia, New York in the same amount of time going in different directions. So for us being the state of Pennsylvania, and I know every state operated differently in how they opened things up, but the state of Pennsylvania used kind of like a traffic light scenario, a red phase, a yellow phase, and a green phase. So we had been in the red phase, obviously, for a while, March going into April and then even into May. And then once the powers to be put us in the yellow phase, we felt like it was a time for us to really start thinking, how can we, not only, of course, yes, we are a business, so how can we find a way to make some money, but also, too, more importantly, how can we entertain fans? Because that was been our biggest message, is how can we be an advocate for our fans in the area who are looking for something to do, but also being safe. And we refused to do anything if we couldn't harp on safety and couldn't harp on making sure that people were protected from COVID-19. So this is how, in some ways, we came up with drive-in fireworks. So our stadium in the yellow phase was not open to the public. So what we were able to do was obviously get in touch with you guys. And when the ideas started coming up is, well, how can we have fireworks shows, especially as the weather started to get a little warmer, and also too, but keep folks safe. So we had pretty much kind of like a drive-in movie theater type style. Everyone had to stay in their cars. We have about 5 different parking lots, 2 big ones, 3 smaller ones, and we literally try to pack cars in as best as we can. And as you see here, our drive-in, our first show was sold out. We had over 1,700 cars that were positioned together. And now 1,700 may be thinking, well, Mike, your stadium fits 10,000 fans. Well, think of 1,700 cars with, potentially at least 4 people in a car, maybe a little less, maybe more, depending on the scenario. It was a nice night, but where the safety came in, Chris, was we didn't allow anybody out of their cars. Shows take place at 9:00 Eastern time, and we opened up the parking lots as early as 7:00, and because if folks wanted to come in and get a really good seat, and we understood that for folks that were there a little longer, if they have the facilities and things of that nature, but that's how we emphasize the safety, is that you got to stay in your car. And what was great about it too was we partnered with our local radio station who played the music. Folks could just turn on the dial, 100.7 here locally, and all the songs were playing as the fireworks were going off. So it was, for me, who is not only the media relations guy, I'm also one of the radio announcers. I've perfected becoming a parking attendant because of how many different events we've had. So I've had to I've told people, I'm putting on my resume, I could be a glorified parking attendant. So the big, for me, the show would be going to Walt Disney World. So if the broadcasting thing don't work out, I can head down there. But anyways, that's some of the stuff that we've had to do. And we couldn't do anything, guys, until we got approval from the county and making sure the health and services were aware of everything. So we made sure we dotted our I's and crossed our T's, because we didn't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. So the drive-in fireworks was the first big thing for us. And of course, with this upcoming weekend, July 3 and July 4, back-to-back nights of 4th of July fireworks. And I know you'll want to get into that too, Chris, but this is another avenue for us to have a fireworks show.
Yeah. No, we're excited. We're excited that things, like I said, what started off as no season turned into, hey, we're going to try out this drive-in concept. And then, a sold out night turned into a second drive-in night. And, which then led, we got to do something for Independence Day. And July 3rd turned into July 4th. And, here we are, by early July, we'll have 4 shows on the books, which is, we considering where we were in March and April in our discussions, we're extremely grateful for where it's landed.
We were appreciative of you guys tagging along, because we have 70 home games. Our minor league season is 140 games compared to the major league 162 games. So for 70 home games, I think we had close to maybe 25, 30 shows we were going to have at the ballpark. So for us to still come up with 4, people saying, 25 to 30 to 4. Well, it's kind of a big deal for us, just because, we could have still been in a situation where we had 0. So, these fireworks shows we're having this Friday and this Saturday. And for those who are in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, western part of New Jersey, want to come to see a fireworks show, we still have some tickets available. And we're still implementing a drive-in type scenario. But because now we are in the green phase, we allow 250 people in our stadium, and we're doing in partnership with the July 3 and July 4 fireworks shows. We're also doing something called a dinner on the diamond. So I know a little bit later, in a couple of minutes, I'll be talking about where that idea came from. But folks who purchase a ticket to get onto the field for dinner on the diamond, they can watch the fireworks show. So outside of that, on July 3, we're charging, we are charging $10 a car for folks to park their car and watch the fireworks show, and then the same on July 4th as well too. So we're pretty excited, and that Dads on the Diamond was another different type of event we did for Father's Day, but it was a preview for folks who came that will get the opportunity to watch fireworks on July 3 and July 4.
That's awesome. Great thinking outside the box on how to do that. I know we were even talking internally about who we could engage with and through our customer base. Even it was like, who would have thought drive-in movie theaters might make a roaring comeback in these times? But it was funny, we were talking about how do you go about figuring out a price point to charge for a car, and when we heard what you were charging, and I just know a few of the guys. I can speak for Brian on this call, and even if I spoke to my wife with 2 young ones at home, and it's like $40, $40. I'll spend $30-$40 to get out of this house for and get the kids out of the house. So it was just I think everyone with kids can relate to that. So I think the longer it goes too, you probably could drive that price up a little bit and not have any challenges, just because everybody's getting a little cabin fever. So it's been really exciting to watch how you guys have been able to grow that. I know that speaking of I know we just touched on them, the dinner on the Diamond. It just kind of rolls off the tongue nice to say, to even say that. But you've had some other kind of even non-fireworks related events, right? Some drive-ins. I think you were talking a little bit about characters or something that you guys had for a drive-through or drive-in type situation.
Yeah, we've going back to the Dads on the Diamond just before we get to our character cruise through. So As much as we love putting on fireworks shows, we've also had to get a little innovative too, especially now that we are in the green phase, because now we're allowed up to 250 people max. So on Father's Day, we were able to have a Dads on the Diamond brunch. So dads and their families were able to come out and have brunch on the field, and then play catch on the field. So I don't know, there's a big battle. They see that it's either play catch or have a catch. So for folks watching, take it for what it's worth. So, but it was fun because it was a beautiful weather day. And secondly, folks who had such a strong desire to be in the ballpark, as you can kind of see. And I talked about earlier how I've become a parking attendant, but also too, I've gotten to be able to work in operations a little bit as well too, moving tables, moving chairs, really expanding that resume. So you see the tables roped up, making sure they were socially distant as well too, making sure that everybody's 6 feet apart, not the tables, but make sure bodies are 6 feet apart. We worked hard to really promote the social distancing. Unless they were sitting at the table eating, they had to wear masks. Masks were mandatory, even if they were have to go use the facilities, whatever. So once again, we got approval from the health board and making sure that everything went smooth. And for those of you who've never seen Coca-Cola Park, it's selfishly, it's really a gorgeous ballpark. I've been to many across the country, and we put some stuff up on the video board, and it was just really a beautiful day. We got to serve them a lot of things we normally serve in our club level, as you kind of see the second tier from our golf event, which we also had. We had something called Links at Coca-Cola Park, where we did a driving range style of folks just hitting golf balls onto the field. So, and this was something for us that we were figuring could be a fun way that, it's not fireworks, but still was another fun way for groups to come on out and to hit some golf balls, because a lot of people, there are a lot of golfers out there, good golfers, bad golfers, but they had a chance to come out, have food in our Tiki Terrace, which is just adjacent to the area as you see before you. And then they got a chance to have a couple beers, whatever, drink, hit some golf balls and have some fun. So, it was really cool. And then something else we got a chance to do as well too, is going to have a video to show you here. Something called a character cruise through, which was an event where before we went to green, when we were in yellow, we had characters, Disney characters, superheroes dressed up, and folks got a chance to jump in their car, pay $10 and drive around. So here's just a minute recap of what our character cruise through is all about.
Ferris and Fifi were front and center as the Ironpigs hosted the first ever character cruise through at Coca-Cola Park. The event, sponsored by Service Electric Cable TV 2, The Giant Company, Provident Bank, WZZO, and B104, was a huge hit with hundreds of guests. Carload after carload of excited fans toured the parking lots to catch a glimpse of their favorite characters, including princesses, superheroes, Santa and Mrs. Claus, Dorothy from The Wizard, and of course, the Ironpigs pork racers. Guests also had a chance to thank those on the front line, as many local nurses were in attendance of the parade to celebrate Nurses Week. The 2-hour event raised $9,000 to help support Ironpigs charities, which will use the funds to help other nonprofit groups in the surrounding communities. Until we see you all back at the ballpark again, go Pigs!
And it was for a good cause. We got to go to Ironpigs charities, and we got a chance to really push some money towards our major health networks here in the area in that fight against COVID-19. So, this is how we've been able to become innovative. At one point, our president and general manager, Kurt Landis, told all of us, look, I know we were a baseball team, but we're becoming a special events team now. And that's all we can do until baseball comes back. So hopefully we have some more events in the future, and hopefully we can continue to use you guys for some future fireworks shows down the line.
Yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun to watch you guys, innovate and reinvent yourselves a little bit to, fight, and it takes a lot of tenacity to push through these challenging times. Again, like I told Mary, grateful for the partnership we have with you guys. It's fun each season coming in, and we're grateful that you guys, kept us involved, with where we're suffering as well. I mean, it's been top front and center. Our worst season as well. While we do a lot of work all year, we have a busy Labor Day, New Year's, 4th of July is our season. And, this thing couldn't have hit at a worse time, even the recent spikes and everything. So we're grateful for those that have stayed steadfast and strong and keeping the things that they planned on the books, and not letting not let the headlines drive their decisions, by the hour. So thank you both again. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jeff, as we jump into some safety topics, and Michael and Mary, if anybody has any questions at the end, we may call back on you guys to answer a few things. So
great. Yeah. Thank you, Lib.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Michael and Mary. I think, Brian, we're going to try to queue up the APA video one more time here before we jump into the safety segment. So let's see if we can get that going. I see there are questions coming in, so we will take those at the end.
Are we prepared to have our future Independence Day tradition stripped away because Congress failed to save our fireworks entertainment industry in crisis?
We need Congress to act in the next COVID stimulus package to make certain that the needs of the professional firework display industry are not left behind.
Hi, I'm Jim Souza, president of Pyrospectaculars, a 5th-generation fireworks family whose history now spans over 100 years. Our company, like many others across this great land, have suffered greatly from coronavirus. We've lost all sporting events, outdoor concerts, theme parks, and even high school graduations, and now the 4th of July. Instead, it's going to be dark skies at night.
My name is Steve Pelkey, CEO of Atlas Pyrovision Entertainment in Jaffrey, New Hampshire. For over 70 years, our family business has provided fireworks for every major city and town throughout New England. This July 4th, Atlas should be performing well over 200 municipal fireworks presentations. Unfortunately, the pandemic has forced over 95% of cities and towns to cancel their annual events. For our family business, this means that we must continue to employ over 25 full-time full-time staff and safely store over 200,000 pounds of low explosives for the next year without an income.
We've joined together with the American Pyrotechnic Association to reach out to Congress and to the Senate because we need specialized and customized loan programs for us to survive so that we can pass the torch to the next generation.
We are pleading with our congressional leaders to help save our third-generation family business and industry during this very difficult time by passing a long-term payroll protection plan. Our fireworks entertainment industry needs your help. Please act now before it is too late.
We are looking for modifications in the EIDL loan so that this industry can survive in order to be here next year when they can entertain millions of Americans nationwide when we finally get to gather once again and celebrate our pride, patriotism, and independence. Please help us.
All right, great. Well, thank you to the APA and Greg for that that video. We appreciate that. Before we go into now our final section, we'd like to quickly show one final video on safety. This is a Professor Sparks video. The entire series is actually available at celebratesafely.org, which we'll share in our comment section below as well. But this was put together by the APA as well and is a lovely safety series, so please enjoy.
Hello, kids. I'm Professor Sparks, here to talk to you about firework safety, because a fun experiment is a safe experiment. Fireworks are cool, right? They're sparkly and go boom, but they can also be a little bit dangerous. So to stay safe, you should know something about them. Let's start with the basics. There are two types: display, just for the pros, and consumer, for the rest of us. Fireworks laws aren't the same everywhere, so check with your local police or fire department about the rules where you are. Only buy at state-approved locations, and never mess with fireworks without labels, because they may be homemade, which are risky and illegal. You'll need to set up a safe location or discharge site for setting off your fireworks. It should be a flat, fireproof, open area away from the house and free of debris. Then get your parent a hose and a bucket of water, first aid kit, safety glasses, emergency numbers, and a phone, and tell the grown-ups, no drinking. Light one at a time. Don't hold it while you light it. Make sure everyone stays back, and you better not shoot them at anybody. Also, don't ever touch used fireworks or duds. Those are the ones that didn't go off. Wait 15 minutes, then douse them in water. Fireworks have been around a long time. Invented in China, probably in the 2nd century BC. They were used to celebrate all the important life events. They became popular in Europe for military victories, then public and religious celebrations. Eventually, they made it to the United States and were even used at the very first 4th of July party in 1776. Originally, fireworks are made from black powder, stuffed into bamboo shoots and thrown into fire. They've changed a bit since then, but they are still a crucial part of any grand celebration. You might not know this, but a lot of science goes into making fireworks. Chemistry, physics, engineering. You have to have the right mix of chemicals or chemical composition to make good fireworks. Must-haves, something that's oxygen-rich, an oxidizer, and a fuel, something that burns. When you mix them up and apply heat, they react to each other and make color, light, and noise. Fireworks makers can control what happens during the chemical reaction by changing the chemicals around. They can make different colors, different kinds of effects, like sparklers, glitter, and crackling. And they can even control whether there's smoke. Then the pros use computers to make sure that everything blows up right on time. So while you're out there having fun watching the show, remember, lots of cool science stuff is going on behind the scenes. When it comes to fireworks, engineering is important. It has everything to do with how they're made. The main body of a firework is called a shell and is made of plastic or cardboard. Shells have inserts in them. Inserts hold the fuse. That's the thing they light to make it go boom. And are surrounded by rice hulls coated in black powder, a mix called brake powder that helps everything blow out. Inside the inserts are little pellets filled with black powder and chemicals. The types of chemicals and the shapes of the pellets are what make the fireworks explode in different ways. These jam-packed shells are shot into the air by a black powder lift charge and set off at just the right moment by a time fuse. And that's when you see the awesome fireworks we all know and love. Stay safe out there, kids. One accident can ruin your whole day. Brought to you by the American Pyrotechnic Safety and Education Foundation.
All right, thank you, Professor Sparks. Now, Paul, I am going to kick the mic over to you for another safety conversation with Greg from the APA on consumer firework safety.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Greg, thanks for joining us. It's kind of hard to follow up after Professor Sparks there. He kind of took our jobs and made it nice and easy for us. Quick to jump back to the video before Professor Sparks. It was a video that was obviously put on from the APA to explain the current conditions of the fireworks / live entertainment industry. We want to make sure people out there know, they might be asking, okay, that's great information, but how can we help? We want to make sure people know that, talk to your congressmen, talk to your congresswomen, senators, let them know that, the world needs their fireworks, and without the government's help to help us survive another year as an industry, there's a good chance that fireworks is not going to be here for the future. So, Greg, do you have anything did I miss anything on that message?
No, that's spot on. It's unfortunate that we are in this situation, but we're all in it together. So, like many industries out there, we work really hard to be able to survive and be able to move forward with some help, because we're going to need it. It's really tough when most of your display companies are short on business by 70 to 90% this year. So hopefully we'll get through it. Keep a little faith.
Well, Pyrotecnico will get through it.
Yep.
We're going to get very innovative as our customers have already shown. We're going to continue forward. Yes, laugh at me for screwing up that word, but yeah, we're going to move forward with it to make sure that we're here at the other end. What that other side of this looks like, time will tell. But we need everybody's help to make sure that we can move forward. So let's look for the future. Right now, we know that the consumer fireworks industry is actually seeing an uptick in business due to the lack of other shows, and I'm sure other reasons that they're finding. A lot of states recently has allowed more sales to go on, so we're seeing a lot more in consumer fireworks usage. So we thought it'd be a good time right before the 4th of July here to have a quick conversation to make sure everybody's doing it safely. We as a professional display company get affected by anything that happens in the fireworks world. So if someone is using consumer fireworks and God forbid they get hurt, it affects us all. So we want to make sure that, first of all, we care about people. Second of all, we want to make sure that everybody's, protecting, everything that they can, our industry, themselves. And so, Greg, if you could give a couple highlights of where you think, the most downfalls are from folks doing private shows.
Yeah, well, since everybody was penned up for 90 to 100 plus days, and with a lot of the major events being canceled, thankfully with the American Pyrotechnic Safety and Education Foundation and working with APA, we're able to put together this great educational program to educate youth. And by the way, under celebratesafely.org, people can go in there, teachers and educators can go in there and get this entire curriculum. It's actually, I introduced it to our local school district for their chemistry and science class. You have to jump through a few hoops to get everybody on board, but it's all about education and safety. And with that, with the huge uptick in consumer sales this year, due to the fact that, hey, we can't go see a major show, probably close to 50% of the new customers out there buying consumer fireworks this year, the legitimate ones from our legitimate companies out there, are new customers, and the educational program goes hand in hand with making sure that they're going to be responsible, always have an adult in charge. You don't hand fireworks to kids. And, make sure the directions are followed. It's also about common sense in its premier state here, where people, if kids are educated and they see Uncle Greg over there too intoxicated or with a lighter in their hand, they can say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. So it's all about making sure that the checks and balances are there for safety, because the fireworks sales started almost a month early this year. As soon as things started to go green and people started to get some relief to be able to come out, first thing they thought about is, hey, the fireworks show, the events are canceled, so let's go buy fireworks so we can shoot them in our backyard. So yeah, we have some concerns about the massive volumes of people out there for the first time maybe shooting fireworks, but that's why we're very much stressing the importance of these safety programs and reading the directions and working with their suppliers to make sure they have all the right information to shoot their fireworks safely.
You mentioned something that kind of hits home. When I say home, I mean really my home. Backyard fireworks shows. Now, the difference of someone having a big open field and someone in suburbia shooting fireworks is a big challenge. I know that we see a lot of cities having more, not fireworks shows, consumer fireworks shot off of them, versus having room to do it. I would think that I know the education is there telling people to keep the distances. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that a layman wouldn't realize, that we have fallout zones and safety distances and all in display fireworks for a reason. You want to brief on that subject a little bit for where consumers would find that information?
Yeah, for the consumers, basically when they buy their products, they can ask the questions from the salespeople at the retail locations. How high do these go? How much room do we need? They have, a lot of them have these cards, and they have some helps out there to do that. Also, there's state laws. For instance, here in Pennsylvania, there's a 150-foot minimum distance that you're supposed to be to a inhabited building or sensitive material. That's not easy to do in the city. And as you mentioned there, Paul, earlier, when people are shooting fireworks, they need to be respectful of doing it at opportune times, like at dusk through 10 or 11 p.m. There are curfews, and there are things that you have to adhere to for people that do have to work and sleep at night. And so there are a lot of things there that go into consumer fireworks awareness that people can have courtesy and pay attention to. Naturally, we can't regulate what everybody does out there. We certainly would love to, but their actions speak loudly, especially if they're not following all the directions and being respectful to their neighbors, as well as I have to even mention pets. That came up a couple of times today about making sure that the pets are taken care of too.
Yeah, very, very true. You see in all social medias, not all, but a lot of them, people that do complain about the noise and all, and being respectful of when you're shooting them, and talk to your neighbors. If you have 5 or 6 people on the block that are shooting them, try to time it all out so it's at one time, so it's not something that's taking 6 hours long. And respect your neighbors, as you said, and let them sleep when they need to, and or their pets to be protected. One of the questions that I've seen come up a lot is, what do you do if you have a fireworks not shoot properly?
Well, the best protocol for that is, since fireworks are regulated by CPSC and they're highly regulated on the chemicals and how they can be manufactured with the pyrotechnic materials through NFPA as well as EPA, these products, if they do malfunction or once they're finished, it's best to soak them in a barrel of water, a bucket of water for a while, and then bag them up. And the best advice I can give is, don't put them in the trash can, in the garage, near the deck, next to the house. Keep it out in the middle of the yard, because if something happens to smolder, they are made out of cardboard and paper and string and glue. If there is one that's not quite out, those are where a lot of the problems start, when people just, the show's over, they dump them in the bag. The can goes in the garage so the raccoons don't get it. But guess what? These are just common sense things that we try and put out there for people to dispose. And yes, they can be disposed of in their municipal waste, very legally and safely, as long as they've been wetted down and they're desensitized.
Yeah, very good. Now, in the display industry, we have several rules that we follow for safety. One is a cool down period. So I'm assuming just the same in and consumer that we would want a cool down period of I think you mentioned 20 minutes or so before you go anywhere near them. Safety gear is another thing that you see it. You know, I hate to say YouTube's a wonderful tool, but if you get on YouTube, you can see some crazy stuff out there. People walking around just lighting them with a cigarette, or you know, no protection at all. You know, when we're doing displays, we have, if you're up into the display site itself, you need a hard hat on, you need safety glasses on, long cotton clothes to cover your skin. And one of the things that a lot of people don't even think about that much, that you know, you see so many consumer folks out there doing is they're walking around in flip-flops or something similar to that. A closed shoe is going to protect you a lot more than you think it would. If you do get you know, an ash or something, debris on you, it's going to protect your foot from getting it trapped in. So any other safety thoughts that you can think that how they can protect their body?
Oh yeah, make sure they have non-flammable, non-synthetic type clothes on if they're the lighter out there. They also want to make sure they have safety glasses on. Safety glasses are very inexpensive. They can be bought at any hardware store. You know, you use them to run your weed eater and your lawnmower, so put them on for the fireworks. And also, it's a good idea that if you are lighting off a series of multi-shot consumer fireworks, to have the proper distance from your audience and other structures, but more importantly, making a little barricade so that if something does go awry or malfunctions, that it doesn't shoot at your audience. That's a pretty important thing right there to, it's very simple to do too.
Very good. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time on the call. Greg, do you have any last words, or last words I should be saying for the group?
Well, this is, as for all of us, this is the weirdest year ever. I think in 48 years of being in the fireworks entertainment industry, I am actually going to be home on the 4th of July. Everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I know a lot of you are in the same situation. It's just totally weird, but this day shall pass. We have to stay positive, and we have to be able to look down the road and say, hey, we're going to be back. And it's a big job to come back. It's not going to be easy. We have to face up to that right now, that we've got a 6 to 10 month period here of recovery. And then, you know, everybody would love to see it come right back where we left off 6 months ago, but, you know, I'm not sure that's going to be, it could happen. You know, miracles do happen. So I think if we all pull together, we'll be able to get through this.
I did hear in all the stories today, when we get on the other side, being innovative. And I also heard that people are going to be ready to move forward when this is all passed. So yes, I believe every one of us on this call, you know, we got to keep the good fight going and be ready to respond on the other side of this. For my closing words, I just like to, all the technicians that are out there that happen to have a show, be safe, dot your I's, cross your T's. You may be a little rusty. You know, a lot of people have been sitting behind, you know, the computer screens or what have you. Make sure you're ready to go. Drink plenty of liquids, stay safe, have some fun. Jeff, back to you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Greg, both. That was really informative and helpful as always. Before we wrap it up, Paul, Brian, any questions for Mary or Michael that we can feel that came in from the audience?
Well, I'm sure we're not going to give the locations of the fireworks shows for Mary there. We did have some people even just trying to pinpoint it, like, is it in a field? Is it on the road? So, I mean, they're really doing their homework to try to figure out where you are. So, Lib, when you're down there, make sure you're wearing camo, because they're going to be checking out to see if they can figure out where you're all working.
I'll get my Real Tree Advantage camo out. So
those drone operators are out there busy. I know there was the big show in New York last night, which was a surprise, the first one, and there were people out there actually trying to do that. So they were watching very closely to monitor that. But kudos to you, Mary and Michael, for your innovativeness at your venues. That's awesome.
As far as questions, believe it or not, we've answered a lot of them as we were going. So, Brian, did you have any that we may have missed? He's shaking his head no. So
no, I don't.
All right.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a safe 4th of July. You know, We know it's not going to be a normal year, but we really appreciate you all taking the time to be here, and we look forward to speaking with you after the holiday. So stay safe, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks. See ya.